Welcome back, everybody. David Feldman-Makrias here. And today we're going to talk about how to get your clients or how to get any clients out of a performance slump. So, without further ado, let's jump in. If you're handling any client marketing on platforms such as Meta, I still call it Facebook, TikTok, Google, whatever digital platform, you'll know by now whether you're a couple days in or years and decades in. You'll know by now that the platforms inherently change a lot and they change often. So the frequency of trying to keep up with different changes is a challenge in the digital marketing sphere of itself, right? So with that, there are certain things that work really well that you'll find for clients work really well on ad campaigns, and there are other things that you'll find that don't work really well. So when there's this new change or new shift or anything that's massively updated, performance can be affected. And even consistent performance for months and years for some clients can be driven off the tracks because Google decides to launch Performance Max. Google. Meta decides to, or Apple rather, decides to make the privacy updates for iOS 14. And meta ads for return get all wonky and untrackable. Google does away with cookies, even though a lot of other search engines, besides, I shouldn't say search engines, a lot of other web browsers besides Chrome haven't been using cookies for a while. Chrome still has 50% of I think it's at least 50%. Don't quote me on that. About 50% of web browser share. So all these changes, right? What does that mean? Well, it means that client campaigns can often get messed up. So I'm going to show you my step-by-step methodology to basically get your clients out of performance slumps when maybe you don't know what the right answer is. There's a method to the madness. It's these are just some really helpful tips that I've had to undergo in the last year, especially because the change that we've had to combat is Google switching to Performance Max away from Smart Shopping, which definitely has agitated performance and consistency in many different businesses. Now, some businesses, it's been really good and it's actually increased performance. Now, other businesses have suffered a little bit because the previous strategy of Smart Shopping worked really well, specifically for online e-commerce business applications. But what I want to show you today is I want to show you exactly what is, my step-by-step methodology, or rather the tips that I utilize on a daily basis to make sure I can get clients out of this performance slump, even if I don't know exactly what to do. So let's get into that right now. But first, I want to show off my sweatshirt because I really like it. It's this sweatshirt I got in Colorado recently, Rocky Mountain National Park. If you haven't visited, you totally should. And this sweatshirt is cool. I got it in Estes Park in a little shop. So I don't know. I just really like it. It feels good, and it's got like the bright colors. And I just wanted to show it to you guys. Usually I'm in more formal attire, but that's okay. Okay, let's get into it right now. Okay, so I have my list here. Here's our doc, per usual. I have my list here. I'm going to make myself a little small. A little bigger. So I wanted to just go through one by one so they're not distracting. So that's what we're going to do. Let me put myself on the left side here, rearrange. All right, cool. Let's do it. So the first tip, whenever there's a performance fluctuation with your clients, is to, of course, keep yourself calm. Well, easier said than done, right? Especially if your business has any stake in their performance. I mean, it always does, but when performance goes down, what do? We need to keep ourselves calm, right? But that's very vague, right? What are some ways that you can keep yourself calm? One thing that I find super helpful, not only in business, but also just in life, is meditation. If you haven't meditated before, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I've been doing it for years, and literally just 10 to 15 minutes a day has made a such significant difference, right? So I would highly recommend that as a long-term habit, okay? Long term. So well, that's great, David. What if I haven't been meditating and I need some solution right now? How am I supposed to keep myself calm when all of this performance updates and clients calling me and stressing me out and I don't know what to do? What am I supposed to do in the meantime? Well, a couple things you can do. Ways to keep yourself calm is first, don't react in front of clients, right? Clients will go off your reaction. You have to be confident. Even if you don't know exactly what the right move is, you have to know what the next best step is, right? What direction do we need to go in? If I don't have the ultimate solution, and I don't know, like, okay, I'm going to press this button and all your sales are going to increase. If we don't know that, or I'm going to turn this campaign on and all your sales are going to go back to being consistent. If you don't know that, and oftentimes you won't, because if you did, you wouldn't have this problem. If you don't know that, then ways to keep yourself calm would be obviously long-term habit of meditation. But one way that you can do, if even if you haven't been meditating, is just some simple things. Take a break, go for a walk, go eat some decent food, right? Go talk to a good friend. Talk to family if you're close with family, someone that actually can give you a little bit of encouragement you can discuss the problem with. Because oftentimes, what I find myself doing is I like to obsess about the problem. But what I find best is when I do that, I obsess. But then what I do is I'll make a time for me to come back to the problem, right? Maybe it's a couple hours, maybe it's an hour, maybe it's 10 minutes. Who knows, depending upon the severity and how long I've been in the problem for. um, I will take a break. I'll go work out. I'll go do something totally, unrelated, and just give myself a minute and then come back. That's a form of meditation, right? You're getting into your body, you're getting into something else that's not stuck in this head, because when you're just kind of wrapped up in the day to day, it's very easy to go, oh my gosh, I've tried this, I've tried that. What am I going to do? But ultimately, you need to keep yourself calm. So there is a long-term habit of meditation. Daily meditation works so, so, so well. So well. And a couple of, you can find some easy, I recommend body meditations for long-term habit building. That's just going to lead you to happiness in your life and better understanding of your life. In my personal opinion, helps a lot, especially in business, because you want to keep yourself calm. Short term habit, take breaks. Take breaks, research, talk to a friend, go for a walk, go exercise, do certain things that makes you happy, but then have a time where you're going to come back and try and figure out what the situation is. So that's keep calm. And the biggest part for keeping yourself calm too is you need to keep calm to make sure your client remains calm. Often, like anybody that's around you, the people, especially if you're a leader, the people are going to emulate what kind of reaction and temperament that you have when you're around. So if you can keep yourself calm, it's a lot easier to keep clients and any other business partners calm as well. Okay, second point, analyze the data. Obviously, you've probably done this, right? How to get clients out of performance slump. Well, if you're data driven, you need to analyze the data. And what I recommend is starting from an approach that is a reverse engineering approach. So let me actually write down some of these tips. Okay, pause there. And I just wanted to write down some of the stuff too that we've been talking about. So, all right, what are we on? We're on analyzing the data. So, obviously, if you're trying to get your clients out of a performance slump, you need to analyze the data and put metrics to it, because metrics and numbers take the emotions out of things because they just are what they are. And usually, what I do by analyzing the data is I start at the most valuable metrics and work my way backwards. I have a lot of other videos talking about this, but clicks, impressions, CTR, cost per click, cost per result, cost per thousand impressions, or CPM. Those are more of health metrics, vanity metrics, I call them. They're really to help diagnose different levels of a campaign. They're really, I don't think that clicks should be the overall indicator of how healthy a performance of a campaign, an online marketing campaign is. We need to start at the back end. We need to start at sales. We need to start at conversions. We need to start at purchases. So I'm going to say start at most important metrics first: sales, purchases, conversions, etc. Right? So you might think that that's a pretty easy tip. No duh, David. I need to start with that. But it is worth saying. Don't get lost in vanity metrics first. Clicks, impressions, views. Is increasing the amount of YouTube views necessarily going to help someone who's down 50% in sales month over month? It might, but it's not. It's usually not the most significant point, unless they have, their biggest campaign drivers is from YouTube. Here's another thing about analyzing the data. You want to look at Google Analytics, and you want to see if all sources of traffic are affected. So I'm going to put that down. Review Google Analytics and see if all sources of traffic are impacted, or is it only some of them? So that's one way to see too, like especially if a platform has changed the way that they operate, or campaign structure or whatever, like an example, Google with Performance Max. You can go into Google Analytics and you can look at, I'd say at least last 30 days, last 90 days, and I compare it to the previous year. Sometimes it's hard to compare to the previous year though, because supply, inventory, depending upon the business, whatever. But you need to compare it to like either a previous year or previous month. And then you need to see, okay, are the other sources of traffic besides the one that maybe you handle, are those impacted in a negative way? Have they had any impact? Because you have to analyze the data to see if the campaigns that you're running are the sole source, or the main source, I should say, the most significant source of the negative impact in performance. You want to isolate, and you start with that, usually in a tool like Google Analytics or an overall website traffic analysis tool. I usually start Google Analytics and go to the source medium report. So I'll put an example here. Example, Google Analytics. This is in UA, which would be source medium report. I think it's under acquisition, source medium. And then review a time period of at least last 30 days versus your previous period or previous year. Maybe you want to look at a few to see if there's some trends within that. So then you can start to isolate, are the things that you're handling and you're doing, is that having any specific impact on the business? If it is, well, then you need to dig deeper in your service. If there are other sources of traffic, I'll write this down too. If other sources of traffic that you aren't necessarily responsible for are showing negative results, well, this could be bigger than you. This could be a problem that's outside your scope and control, right? So there could be something that, a big competitor, I've had this too, a big competitor was started to interrupt the market space, and it really, really impacted one business a lot. And it wasn't just, the Google Ads campaigns that I was running for them. It was also their direct traffic. It was also their organic traffic, which we had done some SEO campaigns and initiatives in the past, but they weren't like SEO and direct. It's not like a faucet, right? It's not like you turn it on, turn it off. It's an investment over time, and usually some more significant changes in the market impact those sources of traffic. right? Especially with well-established brands. If you're running paid campaigns, a platform update like Google's Performance Max or Apple's iOS 14 a couple of years ago to Meta, that is going to be more significant and more immediate, but only really with paid campaigns. That's really what I'm mostly discussing, paid campaign results. Um, Yep. All right. So that's some helpful tips on how to analyze data and see where you go from there. Next tip, research, research, research. You gotta branch out. And honestly, if you're trying to get them out of a performance slump, you gotta look at everything, right? Make sure your resources for research are credible, right? Like if I look to YouTube a lot because anybody posting on YouTube has a balance of a couple different things. They have a balance of consistently putting out content if they've been around for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, at least in the space, which is kind of what you want to look for YouTube. Plus, they have the consistency. If they have high production value, if they have a website that makes sense, if they have good video content, if they have good comments in their videos, there's a lot of social proof within YouTube. So that's good, and it's a great way to learn and research problems. But there's a lot of people talking about a lot of different things to say. So you have to make sure you vet out your resources for research. And even if you do come across a resource that you research that gives you a lot of tips, tricks, things of that nature. You want to make sure you don't just go all in. I've made that mistake too. So let's say once you find, I'm going to do YouTube as an example. I think YouTube is a great way for learning. Great example. The negatives of YouTube is potential negatives of YouTube for research. every A lot of people will try and make content. A lot of people will try to make content. Um, Too many different strategies all at once is not good, right? Things like that. You got to pick a strategy and work with it. But I would also very, very highly recommend that even if you find a reputable resource for research, like even if you find a reputable source for knowledge, make sure you test and don't go all in, right? Don't go all in right away. Watch some of their stuff, see if it makes sense to you. Go to some other competitors, see what they say. Do you see similarities? Do you see differences? You know, don't look for a tip or trick or fast way. Look for principles that actually make sense. Look for principles that make sense. Don't look for the tip or trick that's going to save you right away. Like that usually doesn't work. I've tried. I've tried doing that stuff. And honestly, those have led me into some of the biggest performance slumps and the biggest wastes of money possible for myself and clients. So do your due diligence, research. I love YouTube. You can get books, you can go on Amazon. There's so many blogs about different things, but make sure the source is reputable. Reputable. You can tell English wasn't my thing. Engineering was, not English. So make sure it's reputable. So if results are really rocky and there's inconsistent performance, this is a great tip that's really helped me out a lot. I'm going to continue to use it, and it really helps. So especially if you work remote or if you don't have daily contact with certain clients, set check-ins. Set check-ins. And if performance is rocky, often what I'll do is I'll set daily check-ins. Let them know that you're there for them. Again, two sources of value that you can provide: actual value, which I consider driving purchases, driving sales, driving conversions that are measurable and that they can see and feel, or delivering content, delivering really high aesthetics, delivering SEO campaigns, delivering whatever that is, whatever your end deliverable is. That's your actual value, but then your perceived value, right? What is their perception of you? What is the overall value that you bring to them when you meet them, talk to them, explain things to them, whatever? communicate with them. It's really about communication. That's what perceived value and actual or perceived value more so is about. So oftentimes when performance is rocky, I'll set daily check-ins, right? Okay, check in and I'll put the date, April 28th, 2023. This is what's going on. Here's what I see in the campaign. This is what I've done. Here's what we look for. I'll set if then rules too in my check-in, which is a tip for later on. I have a lot of tips in here, but like set check-ins and say, okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to test this for a few days or 7 days or 2 weeks or whatever. And I'm going to check in daily to kind of see what's going on. And then follow up at the same time. They know that you're there for them. They could feel that. It's like, okay, someone's there for me. They're trying to figure it out. It's a little rocky, but I trust them. And if you can, and this is the best part, if you can get them out of the slump, let me put daily check-ins. April 28th, 23 check-in, email subject line, and then write a couple bullet points about what you're doing. It shows that you'll be there for them. And it's true because you are there for them. And if you genuinely care about your clients, you'll do things like this. What else? What was I going to say? I cut myself off by writing. I forgot. These daily check-ins are really, really powerful. They're really good. Oh, yeah, this is what I was going to say. If you can gear them in a better direction that's more consistent, more sustainable and everything, they'll have a lot of trust in you, a lot of trust, especially when you handle marketing campaigns that directly relate to purchases and conversions and sales for them. That's the lifeblood of their business. You're going to be a close ally for them. So you have to take that responsibility with a lot of integrity. And if you can figure it out, even if you stumble a little bit, and even if it takes you a little bit longer than you'd like to figure it out, if you can do that and continually do that, then the trust that you have is really, really awesome. And that's where that development of personal relationships really, really makes sense, right? Doesn't mean that it all couldn't be upheaved tomorrow, because that's life, but that's where the longevity comes with. So set check-ins. I can't stress this enough. Do daily check-ins. They know you're there. This video is taking longer than I thought. Maybe I'll make a part 2. Anyways, don't make too many changes, okay? You never want to make too many changes, especially in paid ad campaigns. But you'll also be caught in a rock and a hard place, because you'll see that performance isn't doing well. And usually what happens when performance isn't doing well, you want to make a change, right? But if you make too many, you're not going to go in the right direction. You have to have this balance. Have balance between making changes and not making changes, right? Well, how do you do that? You have to analyze. This goes back to analyzing data. Analyze the data in a way where you categorize different campaigns or deliverables, etc., into different categories of significance, right? Even though I have multiple Google ad campaigns in one account, there's a couple campaigns that drive 80% of the sales. And then the rest of the campaigns, they do 20, 30%. They're still good to have, but they're not like the main crux. There's like, out of an account that I maybe have 7 or 8 campaigns for that I'm thinking of right now, I have, maybe 2 or 3 campaigns that drive 75 to 80% of all the business. So if you make changes to a campaign like that, that's a big change, right? But if you're making little changes to smaller campaigns, it may not yield in a big change. So, just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as you move forward. Again, you want to balance changing. Clients want you. Usually, what I think of is, especially if clients aren't necessarily involved with the day-to-day for digital operations or don't inherently understand that you can't make too many changes at once. I've heard like Google ad reps say, "Oh, you can't make that change. You can't make a change for a month." Okay, what do you tell the client that they have 3 weeks of underperforming campaigns? You just tell them, "Well, sorry, we got to wait another week." That's not the right thing to do either. That's going to help. That's going to make them panic. You know, you could say something to the effect of, you know, we should give this a little more time. However, if we don't see vast improvements in results soon, then we need to make this change. We're going to do this, this, and this, blah, 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 blah. And that actually gets into my next tip, or it's one of the ones that are highlighted in white. I wanted to do it step by step so it makes sense for you guys. But that's going to get into one of the next tips. This video is definitely going longer than I thought. I'm actually going to make a part 2. So I will see you all in part 2. Thank you for watching.